Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today. I have Excellon Resources presenting, which I'm super excited about because they've got a lot of news coming this fall. Before we get started, I'll remind everyone that this presentation will contain forward-looking statements. If you'd like to know more about those, you can check them out on the company's disclosure on their website. And if you have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to enter them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, or you can email them to me at deborah@adcap.ca. With that out of the way, I'd like to introduce Brendan Cahill, CEO, and Ben Pullinger, SVP Geology. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Deb. Good to be here, and good to give an update as well. So we will be making some forward-looking statements today. That's the fun part, of course, so you can read this in your spare time. But Excellon Resources, we've been around for quite some time now. The company was founded in 1989, brought to Mexico by Peter McGaw in the mid-90s, and we made the discovery of Platosa in the late 90s. Mexico's highest grade silver deposit, put it into operation in 2005, and we've been operating it since. So 15 years of production in Mexico. We're going to look at where we're going with that asset over the next little while. We have an opportunity to significantly reduce costs. Q2, very difficult for the mining industry. We made a lot of strides to very much improve the cost profile of the operation during that quarter. And Q3, things are looking good and very excited for the future. But it was in May or so last year when we saw gold moving through 1375, 1400, realizing that the gold and precious metal cycle was fully on board again. We started looking at a number of gold assets focused significantly on the Western United States. And that review led to the acquisition of Otis Gold in April of this year. So during the pandemic, we were very busy, or during that Q2, very busy closing this transaction. And this transaction, exceptionally accretive to our story. We bought it for less than $20 an ounce, or about $22 million Canadian in shares. And the Kilgore asset, which was the flagship of Otis, is now on an NPV basis worth over $300 million US. So exceptionally accretive to our NAV. It also moves us from about 50-50 precious metals, base metals, to over 90% precious metals with this addition of 1 million ounces of gold, and increases our resource base by over 450%. So an exceptional transaction. The great thing about Kilgore, though, is it's got loads of room to grow. Agnico Eagle invested in Otis back in 2017. They put $5 million in at 35 cents. And because they see the opportunity on this project for a 3 to 5 million ounce deposit. And that's what we really want to follow up on. Growing resources, making discoveries, that really fits in with the rest of our portfolio of assets. The key one we're going to talk about today is Silver City, which is a really interesting project. We've optioned basically an entire epithermal silver district in Saxony, Germany, an area that was mined for 800 years, but was kind of forgotten about through the sands of history. So Ben's going to talk about the high-grade discovery opportunity we have there pending very shortly. That's one of a portfolio of assets that we have. Lots of great exploration ongoing at Platosa. Our Evolucion project in northern Zacatecas, southern Durango. We'll have a resource update on that shortly. And our Oakley project, which is actually an option to Centerra Gold, really moving forward nicely on the exploration front. All of this, production, silver production, gold development opportunity, and the number of exploration assets, it's focused on or supplemented with a market-based strategy. We're in the process of preparing a listing for the NYSE. Hope to have news out on that very shortly. And I think that's going to add a tremendous amount of value to our shareholders. All of our peer group is on that exchange already, and much deeper capital pools and much higher liquidity. So excited for that to come into fruition over the coming months or so. So let's get started on the presentation. Capital structure, we just did a financing of about 18 million, which closed in late July. That really improves our capital position. Q2 difficult, but raising that money puts us in a very good position. About 11 million in cash now, and that's growing. With silver prices where they are, Platosa costs going down, we're starting to generate nice cash flow from the operation. Big shareholder here, Eric Sprott at 13%, And we gained some great shareholders from the Otis acquisition as well. Chris Lee Barber, Agnico Eagle, still a supportive shareholder, and Van Eck joining on that transaction as well. Volumes, I think, for the whole industry have increased dramatically over recent months. Over the last month or so, we're trading almost 1 million shares a day, and good volume in the US as well, though I think that's going to increase significantly once we do that uplisting. Board of Directors and Management, this is kind of an update, so I won't go through everybody, but we'll note a few of the key members. Mike Timmons joined us at the closing of the Otis transaction, former VP Corporate Development at Agnico. Some good news on his resume recently. He's the incoming CEO of Fury Gold, which is a merger of Eastmain Resources and Orion, a really nice exploration package and near-term development package in Canada. Craig Lindsay and Roger Norwich join us from Otis as well. On the management side, I've been with the company since 2012, Ben since 2016. Ben was at Roxgold before coming to Excellon, great success story in West Africa. Anna's with us since the middle of last year, former CFO at Trevally, brought that from a early stage company through to $1 billion market cap back in 2017, 2018 or so. And Craig Ford at Inmet for a number of years, had a large part in getting Cobre Panama off the ground, which led to the acquisition of Inmet for $5 billion by First Quantum in 2015. He's kind of our secret weapon, one of the world's leading corporate responsibility gurus, and that's going to provide great value as we move further into Idaho and do what we're doing in Saxony as well. So when you look at Excellon now, I was talking to somebody a couple days ago, and a year ago, we didn't have Silver City, we didn't have Kilgore, we didn't have Oakley, a very different looking company. But what we've done is we've really created a growth pipeline, a portfolio of assets that both give us exposure to all parts of the growth cycle in the mining industry, but then also diversifies and manages our risk more effectively. With Platosa operating silver mine, we have direct exposure to the silver price. That gives us great leverage to movements in the silver price. To be honest, it's been a little bit subdued in the past month or so, but I think with some of the stuff coming and where the silver price is right now, we're really going to start to see that reaction to the silver price going forward. Good example, in May of this year, we went from 45 cents to $1 as the gold-silver ratio went from $1.15 down below 100. And that's a good example of the kind of returns that we see historically from Platosa in relation to the silver price. With Kilgore, though, you put a high-quality gold development asset in the middle of that portfolio. It's a project we can explore, grow, move into, and develop in due course. And really, from our perspective, when you look at the precious metal cycle, gold is the horse that really drives the cycle, and silver gives you that extra leverage, that extra torque in certain periods, but a really good fundamental asset to build the company around. And then this portfolio of exploration assets, of course, Silver City, the key one right now, but Jaboncillo, a target at Platosa, we're moving that forward. PDN, a target at Platosa, we're moving that forward. Evolution resource coming out soon. Oakley, again, worked by Centerra at the moment, that's moving forward. So we have a number of assets all moving forward at the appropriate pace, getting the exploration capital that they need so that we can really bring them to the market in effect, as fully shaped opportunities. So very excited for Silver City right now, but there's lots more to come on the exploration portfolio. So 3 jurisdictions now. We're in Mexico, in Durango and Zacatecas, Idaho, Eastern Idaho with Kilgore, Southern Idaho with Oakley, and then in Saxony, Germany with Silver City. So let's look at Idaho. I'm going to kind of do the overview here, talk about the economics, and then Ben will talk about the exploration opportunity. A great state to be working in. You've got Integra at Delamar making great advances there. Midas at Stibnite. You've got Revival Gold at Bear Track doing some great exploration and moving a PEA forward on that project. And Liberty at Black Pine really having great exploration success. With the Otis transaction, we got Oakley and Kilgore. As I mentioned, Oakley, it's 163,000 ounce, half a gram oxide deposit. Lots of exploration potential there. And Centerra really interested in moving that project forward. With Kilgore, we've got 1 million ounces at half a gram oxide. Again, significantly increasing our resource base at Excellon. But the 2 reasons we were really drawn to it were the economics, and we'll look at those in a slide. but then also the growth potential. You can see some of the drill results here on the right side of the screen in these bullets. 95 meters at 4.2 grams, 31 meters at 5.4 grams. These are in the deeper part of the system, below the oxide part of the system in the Aspen Formation, and they point to a higher grade, structurally controlled part of the system that really kind of leads to an opportunity to grow this resource significantly. I won't get too far into the geology, Ben will put me down, but I'll turn it over to him in a couple slides. When we look at the economics here though, we did this transaction at about 1,500, 1,550 gold. So very, very good transaction at the time. This is a resilient project. IRR at $1,300 gold is 34%, but now we're at 1,900 plus, 1,950 today. Good rebound in the gold price today. We're looking at an asset that's worth over $300 million US. And keep in mind, we bought this for about 22 million Canadian in shares. The economics themselves, the thing we like about this asset is it's low capex, 81 million including contingency. This is an open pit, low strip, good recovery, heap leach project. That gets you 110,000 ounces a year for 5 years of mine life. So it's 100,000 plus ounce producer. 5 years of mine life, PEA done at a relatively early stage. But from our perspective, it's really about, from an exploration perspective, adding years to the mine life. Your capex isn't going to go up significantly, but your economics are going to improve dramatically. Strip ratio 1.1 to 1, quite low, as we mentioned. Gold recovery is very good at 82%. Recent studies suggest even over 90% recovery is possible. We'll be incorporating that into the updated technical studies going forward. So very good economics on this project, but it's the opportunity to grow the asset that really has us most excited at the moment. Turn it over to Ben now to talk about that. Can you control the screen, Ben? Or?
Sure. Actually, you just keep doing it.
Okay, if I can.
We're going to swap back there.
Right now, I can't control it. Okay. Ooh.
Oh, getting excited here. But yeah, just building on what Brendan said, that's exactly what we're looking for at this project. There's already 1 million ounces defined, compelling economics, and a very straightforward, project outlined. And what really drew us to this project, and I think what brought Agnico to this project as well, is that potential beyond what we're seeing in that 1 million ounces. The 1 million ounces within the resource, as you see there in the gold box, are really drill constrained and not geologically constrained ounces. Apart from that, we have 12 kilometers of caldera margin to play with. And what I'm really excited about is the team that we started to build and put into the field during the summer to get a better understanding of the project, do a lot of fundamental work and really restart and kick off that regional exploration. And I'm really excited about what the guys are seeing in the field, as we go out and look for more targets, look for more showings, and develop a bigger pipeline of regional exploration targets that will eventually become drill targets. And we're seeing very exciting signs that are really underpinning our thesis, and that there is more than just the one deposit. There's a lot more potential, and there's a lot more exploration to be done, and all of that really just that contributes to our thesis of size and the ability to put a 3 to 5 million ounce resource together, or a project together in a very stable jurisdiction. On a resource basis, and just having a quick snapshot of the current resource, you can see drill constrained open to the west, those really high grade intersections deeper down. The really important thing about this is there's no sulfide intersection in this at this point. All this gold is pretty much free, and it's only once you start to get into the bottom of the system that you start to see some of the feeders and some of the fingers of the silicification event that points us towards the core of the system. We're looking at 250 meters below surface, a very compelling target to follow up on and get into follow up on that quartz veining and the introduction of silver into the equation there, and find this core. A system like this big will have a big high grade core, we hope, and we want to be able to explore for that while growing the regional story as well.
So right now on the project, a lot of team building going on. We closed the acquisition at the end of April, so adding a lot of capacity on the ground. Geophysics and geochem has been working quite effectively in identifying areas to follow up on, and we submitted a plan of operations for the next phase of drilling. So that's going to be working through the system over the coming months. So we're going to go down to Mexico now, to Platosa, and give you an update on what's going on there. Like the rest of the Mexican mining industry, operations were shut down for Q2, so a difficult quarter for sure. But what we did during that period, we had a very tough negotiation with the union. We managed to reduce our workforce by about 40%, yet coming through that, have greater productivity at the end of it. The way we did that was going from 3 shifts a day to 2 shifts a day, and then blasting at the end of the shift. So, while the mine is clearing of fumes and gases, everybody is up from underground anyways. So we have our best guys underground at the face more often. They're getting paid overtime and bonus, so they're quite happy, and our productivity has gone up quite significantly there. Treatment charges in the industry, particularly for zinc, have gone up a lot in recent years. We negotiated a 25% reduction on those in Q2 as well. The big change, which is still coming, is moving to a private electricity contract. So we're in the final kind of days and weeks of getting that done. Right now, electricity is about 40% of our OPEX. We're looking to get a reduction there of about 40%. So that's a significant savings going forward. All these things together, we're targeting an all-in sustaining cost significantly lower than what they've been in recent quarters or recent years, in the area of $15 to $17 or so. And depending on base metal prices, the opportunity to drive those costs lower still. So Q3, very excited for this quarter. It's going well so far. And, I think it's going to demonstrate that Platosa's costs can go much lower and generate very good cash flow at current metal prices. Platosa, that return on silver prices, here's a chart going back to early 2016, showing our return relative to the silver price. So that exceptional torque relative to the silver price. And I think that's going to be evident going forward as well.
Brendan, just before we leave Platosa, just one thing to note is now with the mine up and running again, we're able to restart our underground drill program with the intention of continuing to expand and define further resources ahead of us. And we'll also be in the next month or so, restarting our surface exploration campaign. So quite excited to see that going forward as well.
Yep, and then so we'll move down from Platosa to Evolucion, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on this project, get to Silver City as quick as we can. But our mill is in the middle of Evolucion. We've done a bulk sample on ore from Hecla San Sebastian mine, about 40 kilometers up the road. Successful bulk sample. They're doing a metallurgical study to look at advancing that project further. Probably going to be 2021 or 2022 by the time that starts coming in. But we're looking at other toll milling opportunities there. So very key strategic asset for us down there. The other thing is in late 2018, early 2019, we discovered a very large bulk tonnage zone, basically right beside the mill at Migalauza. These grades and widths you see on the left side of the screen there, they're not grade constrained yet, but we're moving this towards a resource over the next little while. Should have that resource out certainly in the second half of this year. So quite excited to see that come out. There's a lot of tons, a lot of ounces. I think that the market is going to be pleasantly surprised when that comes out. And, before we get to Silver City, huge amount of greenfields exploration potential at Evolucion. It's 45,000 hectares, covers about 35 kilometers of the Fresnillo trend, most of it unexplored. You've got Migalauza in the south part of the project, and then just off the north part is San Sebastian, which was discovered under a few feet of soil back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So, like the rest of our projects, this is moving forward at the appropriate pace. We've got people out in the field doing prospecting, geochem, and identifying targets to drill in due course. Okay, so now across the seas to Germany. So this project, Saxony is in Saxony, Silver City, and one of the things, from Canada, we kind of forget about the amount of mining that actually goes on in Europe. You've got Agnico, of course, in Finland. Their Kittilä mine is one of their great producers. Gold mines and base metal mines in Sweden, huge zinc mines in Ireland. You've got base metals and gold in Spain, loads of gold in Eastern Europe, huge silver mines in Poland. And so the history and prospectivity for mining and ongoing mining in Europe is kind of lower key than necessarily in Canada or Mexico or the US, but it definitely good jurisdictions to be in. Silver City sits in the middle of Saxony in eastern Germany. You've got Czech Republic to the south, and then Poland over to the west or to the east. And 164 square kilometers, 36 kilometers of strike. This is a huge property, a massive epithermal silver district. And, you know, it was mined for 800 years, from the 11th century through to the late 19th century. And mining stopped in around 1873 or shortly after that, when Germany moved off the silver standard. Germany won the Franco-Prussian War in 1871. You know, got a massive settlement in gold from the French, and then moved to the gold standard in 1873. So a lot of those miners went overseas. They went to North America. They founded a number of mining companies there. They were integral in the founding of Peñoles and the commercialization of the Fresnillo mining district. They commercialized the mine quite near a Platosa mine called Oela. Beautiful UNESCO bridge there leads into into the mine. And then in Europe or Germany, history takes over. And after World War II, this became part of East Germany. And under the Soviet sway, the focus was on base and industrial metals. And, you know, gold or silver was just not mined for or explored for. So in fact, there's an old smelter at Halsbrook right beside the project, which was in operation until the late 1960s. It wasn't really until 2011, you know, long after reunification, that Germany realized, you know, access to metals, access to materials was starting to deteriorate. This is a time when, you know, China was cutting access to rare earths. You had sky-high nickel prices, gold prices, copper prices. So Germany founded the Helmholtz Institute in the town of Freiburg, which is right beside the project. And this is a high technology institute for German exploration technology, mining technology, and advocacy to bring mining back within German borders. It was put in Freiburg because Freiburg also has the oldest mining and metallurgical university in the world. So we sit in a place with a long history of mining, loads of expertise in mining, and the regulator sits right in Freiburg as well. So it's really the perfect setting, and now it's just about getting the rigs going. I'm going to turn over to Ben to talk about that opportunity, but point out that this project outline, 36 kilometers of strike, 164 square kilometers of surface area. If you put that in Zacatecas, it would basically cover the entire Fresnillo trend between Zacatecas and Fresnillo. So tremendous prospectivity, but impossible to stake or claim basically anywhere else in the world, certainly not in a well-defined and known epithermal silver trend.
Yeah, and if you look at the table on the top left, it's really those grades and widths that are supremely compelling, considering mining methods and mining technology that's employed here in the 1100s to the 1800s. And this is what we're looking for on this project. We're looking for the opportunity to make a world-class silver discovery in.
You're breaking up a bit, Ben.
There's not much I can do. I think it's the internet here, but this is an opportunity to make a world-class silver discovery on a world-class trend with a proven pedigree. And right now, we've commenced a first phase drilling campaign, which is designed to really give us proof of concept to this thesis, to show us what we want to see to continue to fund this project and to test some of these first priority targets. Yeah, the project is being executed very well. And,
yeah, Ben, can't hear you. I'll
step in.
Yeah, I'll step in. So so the project, and you just nod if I go offline here or say something silly. So the project itself, again, 36 kilometers of strike. We've got old workings from Braunsdorf in the south up to Munzig in the north. And the records on these mines are really quite extraordinary. And we'll look at some of those details in a couple slides. But, widths of up to 10 meters, grades of up to 3,700 grams per ton silver, no assays for gold or zinc. Gold difficult to assay for back in the 19th century, and zinc not very useful, before the Industrial Revolution. Some good lead assays as well. So very good records going back. We know what was there. We know what is there as well. If we go to the next slide. So two famous mineralogical galleries in Freiburg, and these are actually samples that were cut from the old mines back 100 plus years ago. if you saw these in Zacatecas or Fresnillo, you'd be on to the part of the system that you're interested in. Multi-kilo per ton silver, high-grade galena and sphalerite. So we know what's down there. We know what's sitting still in these old mines that we're exploring. Again, talking about the records that we have. One sec. What we've done is we've gone to the old databases and registries. We've taken the plan views of the mine, obviously in 2D maps, and we've digitized them, put them into 3D. So one of our simplest exploration methods is really just drilling along strike or to depth below these old mine workings. We also have fluid inclusion studies from the University of Freiburg. They show a prospective horizon down to 450 meters depth below surface based on the epithermal model. And that would be the precious metals prospective horizon. And then you would likely get into a base metal zone below that. What we're aiming for here or targeting here are 2 meters at multi-kilo silver, and we'll see what else is in the ore as well. Lead, zinc, and gold are all possibilities. When you look at this image, you can see the area is rolling farmlands. These are mostly industrial operated, so access to the ground is very easily negotiable. There's also a couple of big quarries in the area, so there's industry in the area, heavy machinery moving around already. We're kind of northwest of the town of Freiburg. There's some small hamlets around, but relatively low population. And certainly, an injection of new economy would be appreciated by the mayors and the people of the area. One of the other things I'd point out, we also have a research and development agreement with the Helmholtz Institute we can use their technology and they get access to our data and drill core to test that technology on. So one of the first things we're doing is hyperspectral core scanning. When the core comes out of the ground, we put it through the core scanner, which gives you a real good snapshot of the alteration package and can lead to good follow-up drilling based on that data once you have enough of it to kind of really see where the alteration is going. So we started drilling here in early July. The initial program is 15 holes plus 12 optional follow-on holes if we have some success. Core started going in for assay in late July. Expecting to have results out in September now, it looks like. We've had a couple bumps with logistics because of the pandemic, but everything is on track and really, really excited to see some of these assays come back. Our thesis here is really that mining didn't stop here because of geology or metallurgy or technological limitations. It was just a geomonetary event. The silver-gold ratio breaking down dramatically after Germany moved off the silver standard. And so we have a chance to really turn the clock back 150 years and be drilling a project that was mined for 800 years for incredibly high-grade silver. So keep an eye out for those results coming out in the fall. Ben's mentioned some of this already, but drilling underground at Platosa starting this week. Platosa surface exploration starting in the coming weeks, and the Oakley option that's advancing nicely in collaboration with Centerra. So lots of other stuff going on, and we'll be making announcements on those as the projects kind of rise to the level of announcement. Sorry, I'm trying to. So we're also part of the Mining Association of Canada and the Mining Safety Roundtable. Certainly working through Q2 and managing the pandemic was a definite challenge, like it's been for everybody in the industry. But luckily with Craig Ford's involvement and expertise, and drawing from the expertise and experience of multi-billion-dollar companies globally, we've done a good job of managing what's a very difficult situation. Of course, moving into Idaho and Saxony, drawing on those experiences is going to be key. Making sure that the communities that we're working in, understand our approach, know what we're on about, and support the projects going forward. So that's the story at the moment. So over the near term, looking for that NYSE listing, that's going to be a very exciting strategic development for the company. Ramping up Platosa with these significantly lower costs. Very excited to put news out on that over the next while, and our financials in October. Drilling again at Platosa on 2 targets, Jaboncillo and PDN. Jaboncillo, where we have a near discovery of a far larger scale Platosa style target. So back drilling there in the second phase in the next little while. Excellon resource update coming out very shortly. And then of course, Silver City drill results, the opportunity to make a high grade discovery on a very well-known and legendary silver district. So I think we have some time for questions, and I'd definitely like to answer them if anybody has any.
So let's talk about Silver City first. So how does the permitting process in Germany compare to in the USA?
So the permitting process is different than the US, of course, but it's very, very well defined. And the important thing to note is that Saxony is in Germany, which is in Europe, and the mining law is the Saxon mining law. The regulator sits in Freiburg, sat in the same office since 1750 or so, and it's called the Oberbürgeramt. Ben's German pronunciation is much better than mine, but that's basically your key point that you go to that coordinates all of the permits that you require from basically getting the project in the first place to getting your drill permits and then moving forward with more advanced permitting. So it's a very defined process. If you follow the steps, you should get your permit. That's kind of the way the system is designed. So far, getting a license, very effective and efficient. And then getting our initial drill permit, we put in the application in late January. We had the permit by early June, and that's despite the pandemic. It probably would have been 6 or 8 weeks shorter, but for some of the logistical challenges resulting from the pandemic.
Okay, and what is the royalty to Globex for Silver City? Maybe you can walk through that transaction in a little more detail.
Sure. So we optioned the project from Globex back in September of 2019, and they staked the project in 2017. The option is it's a 3-year option to earn into 100%, $500,000 Canadian in cash and 1.6 million Canadian in shares. So far, we've paid 100,000 Canadian in cash and 225,000 in shares. The next payment is at the end of September. Right now, we definitely expect to exercise that next payment. The royalty payable is there's a 3% royalty. Once we exercise the option, we can buy, it's 3% on gold or precious metals and 2.5% on base metals. We can reduce both of those with a payment of $1.5 million US, and that's from 3 down to 2 on precious metals, and then 2.5 down to 1.5 on base metals. So very good agreement from our perspective, and with success, it's going to work out great for Globex as well.
Okay, I think I have one more question for Silver City, which is just about the scale, potential scale and scope of the project. Can you comment on how big the land package is, what you think like an analog would be?
So, yeah, I mean, it's a big land package, 164 square kilometers. That's a big land package. Some very well-known companies are having great success with projects a tenth the size and plus billion-dollar market caps. As I mentioned, if you put this in Zacatecas, it would cover pretty much the whole Fresnillo trend between Zacatecas and Fresnillo. You're talking about the potential, in that part of the trend, the Fresnillo trend for hundreds of millions, if not billions of ounces, right? So it's too early yet to talk about those numbers. We got to make the discovery first. But I think when we look at what we're going to do there, it's really, moving around the project, following up on old mines and looking undercover for areas that weren't mined because nothing stuck up out of the ground. If we tag into something, we'll look to move that towards a resource while still continuing to drill other targets. A 36-kilometer strike is pretty huge. And you've got mineralization from top to bottom of it. So a lot of room to grow this project quite significantly.
Okay. And then I have a number of questions on Platosa, just around the value creation strategy. Maybe you want to touch on some of the cost-cutting measures that you've taken over the past little while in improving cash flow scenario at that asset.
Sure. So, Platosa, historically, the problem at Platosa was too much water coming into the mine. This was started in 2007. We used typical grouting techniques to prevent water inflows. In 2017, though, we implemented a new pumping strategy to really get the water table below the mine working, so the water never comes into the mine. So we've worked with a dry mining condition since that time. The challenge has been, really twofold. Electricity prices basically doubling since 2017 in Mexico, and treatment charges going up by about 10 times. So those are the two key headings that we need to focus on. We've renegotiated treatment charges quite effectively, and the market has improved a bit. So, going forward, potentially you could see further improvements there. Electricity moving to a private provider is going to be the biggest change in costs in the near term. And that should reduce those electricity costs by 40+%. It's a natural gas linked contract. And this was an opportunity that wasn't available until 2013 under the energy reforms in Mexico. But not the red tape, but the process to switch to a private provider is relatively lengthy. We're in the end stages of that now, but almost there, but that's going to be a big saving. The other savings are kind of general optimizations that we've been working on for quite some time. In terms of changing shift schedules, so we need less people, and our best people are at the face more often, getting more work and doing and making more money for themselves as well. So those are going to be big drivers going forward. On the exploration front, drilling underground, that's been very effective at growing the resource, defining the resource out ahead of us. So that's restarting very shortly. And then the real opportunity is making new discoveries on the project. And Platosa right now is about 14,000 hectares. This Jaboncillo target that we're talking about is 11 kilometers to the northwest, huge alteration zone. It's much higher up in the system. There's a potential for a very large Manto-style system there. And that you could see with some luck moving to resource stage and development stage relatively quickly with all the infrastructure we already have at Platosa.
Sorry, I muted myself there. Can you quantify some of these cost savings in terms of all-in sustaining costs, or can you provide any guidance there?
Yeah, so, again, electricity is the big one. 40% of our OPEX is electricity. Reducing that by 40% plus has a material impact on your costs. Labor is about 35 to 40% of OPEX. So reducing the workforce by 40% it's not a 40% savings, but it's a significant saving there as well. The other savings are kind of incremental. They're between 5 and 20% when we're talking about mining methods and shift changes and maintenance cycles and things like that. So we want to get those all-in sustaining costs well below 20, really into the $15 to $17 range, and probably some opportunity to do better than that as well. The key thing to do that is switching to this private contract on electricity, which isn't quite there yet. But regardless of that, we've seen good improvements in costs since we restarted in early July, or actually in mid-June, I guess would be the right time.
Okay. I guess the remaining questions deal with, I would say, the underperformance versus peers. There's a bunch of different questions around that. I guess the main thing that investors want to know, especially ones that are new to the story or have been around for a while, why do you think the stocks underperform versus peers? And how do you plan to close that gap? What catalysts are coming? Maybe you can just talk a little bit about your strategy for re-rating.
Sure. And we certainly have underperformed versus peers. Like I totally agree with that. I think, when you look at the factors, we announced the Otis transaction at the end of February, right on the brink of the massive disruptions that we saw in March. And then of course, Q2 being difficult for the whole space. I think one of the factors is, we're looking to uplist to the NYSE. As part of that, we're doing a share consolidation. And I think, some investors just really don't like share consolidations, even though the only reason we're doing it is to get on the NYSE and have that much deeper pool of liquidity. I think with Platosa's cost profile over the past quarters, it's understandable that, investors are not happy. But I think, with the cost changes that we're making at the operation, they're really going to demonstrate quite a different mine once we start, publicizing those based on Q3 results. But really, the change is going to be based on delivering, right? Getting on the NYSE, delivering this Evolution resource, delivering drill results from Silver City, showing significant costs and operational improvements at Platosa. That's all coming. Q2, difficult quarter, kind of a wash, but with Q3 and looking towards Q4, there's lots of good news to come. And, for underperformance, we just got to deliver and start performing. That's it. Pretty simple. And then the market will follow.
And can you just elaborate on the details and timing for the NYSE listing?
We should have some updates out on that in the relatively near term. So, and we're trying to do this as soon as possible. So investors should look forward to something quite soon on that.
And in terms of the cash flows of Platosa, do you have like scenarios and calculations that you're sharing with the market?
Yeah, we're not putting out a forecast like many of our peers right now. We're not putting out forecasts for the remainder of the year. There's just too much uncertainty based on the pandemic and everything. But certainly at $26, $27 silver, the operation performs quite nicely.
Okay. And then the remaining questions really deal with your financial situation. Do you have sufficient funds for your expanded initiatives? That's part of the question. So I'll let you answer that, and then I'll ask the other part.
We closed a convertible debt financing in late July of this year. Those converts went to very long-term shareholders, significant number out of Europe, some out of Mexico. So it didn't go to any hedge funds or other actors. So with that, we have over $11 million in cash, and that's growing now with silver at $27 and Platosa producing. That covers pretty much all of our exploration needs for the near term. And with silver prices where they are, we're in very good shape going forward. Okay,
and the convertible bond that you just issued, and do you have any convertible bonds beyond that?
No. So terms on those 5 3/4% coupon, so very reasonable coupon. We can pay in shares at our option at a 10% rate. Coupon payments are every 6 months. They're 3-year converts and secured by our Mexican assets. And there's an accelerator if the stock trades at 250 or higher for, I think it's 20 business days. After 2 years, we can accelerate them directly. There's also a small warrant package, about 1/3 warrant coverage, $1.15 warrants, and those are 3-year warrants as well.
So you're not planning on redeeming any of those or refinancing that near term?
No, we just issued them in late July, so it's a bit early.
Yeah. Can investors expect more dilution in the future?
Well, with an operating mine and metal prices where they are, we'll generate good cash flow to cover all of our exploration plans. So, nothing kind of significant planned in the near future. I think though that, in this market, if we make a big discovery or we want to build a project, then you look at financing opportunities, and whether that's, debt or equity, that's a decision you make at the time and try to do so in as low dilution a manner as possible. But certainly there's a lot of capital out there to move good projects forward, though we don't have anything specific planned at the moment.
Yeah, well, I think that wraps up the Q&A section. Are there some final points you want to leave the audience with? I mean, you've outlined your catalyst pretty clearly, so I don't know if we need to regurgitate them one last time. From my perspective, I've been working with Excellon since June, but we've known each other for a number of years. And I think where you're situated right now, sure, there's some shareholder frustration out there. There's reasons that the stock's lagged, but the value opportunity is pretty compelling. And I think with this series of catalysts you have coming, you have a good chance at re-rating in this market. That's my view. And I'm not an investment advisor, so nobody should take my advice. But Brendan, maybe you want to comment a little bit on where you think the company's situated and kind of where you think you could be by year end, not in terms of share price, but just in terms of what the company will look like.
Yeah, I mean, I think like when you look at this market, what's been getting the biggest returns, and at the end of the day, the majors are moving up with the price of the metal, but the biggest returns are really on exploration and discoveries. And we've given ourselves, both a good fundamental by acquiring Kilgore, adding that resource base, but really just we have a huge number of discovery opportunities, right? Silver City is the highlighted one right now, but the opportunities at Kilgore are huge. We're really excited about that project, and even more so than when we announced it, or more so than when we closed the transaction based on the work that we've done. Platosa, the work that we did in 2018, 2019, the further studies on the work done there show a new direction for some of the exploration there, which will lead to new discoveries. So it's really, we've got a great platform to make a number of discoveries on a number of projects. And, I fundamentally believe that in this market, that's what's getting investors the biggest returns. Now, we can go through the names of those companies that are doing that, but, I think it's stay tuned for Silver City, and then don't forget about the other stuff in our portfolio that's all moving forward and towards that discovery stage.
Okay, and when are we anticipating seeing results from Silver City?
It looks like it's going to be in September right now.
Okay. And just one last thing, can you summarize the drill program for this year across the different assets? I think some of the people have lost track.
There's a lot of assets, a lot of drilling. Ben, how's your mic?
How's that? Can you hear me now, or is it still garbled?
You're good now, right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're drilling at Silver City and expecting results out over the next month or so. Once we get up and running in Mexico, depending on how productive the drills are and what we see in the rock, I'm hoping we'll be able to continue to provide news through the end of the year and into next year, and continue to build momentum on our exploration story.
Okay, great. Well, I think that fairly clearly summarizes the story right now. If anyone has any further questions, feel free to reach out to me directly at deborah@adcapital.ca or the company as well. And I appreciate you guys taking the time.